Hello my friends and welcome back. It's Wednesday my dudes, and 10 to 20 Russian Shahed drones flew into Poland tonight 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. in that time span. Poland scrambled their air force and they shot down a few of the drones, and one of them struck a target inside Poland. This is a breach of NATO airspace and a direct attack, weaponized attack, directed attack, it's not a mistake, towards Poland. Poland is now considering evoking Article 4, not 5 but 4, which summons the NATO countries to discuss this very incident and to discuss whether to take a military action. In this video we'll go through all of the information that has come up by the time I'm shooting this video about Russian drones flying into Poland. And I say again, there's no thinking that this was an incident. It was not. It was very directed. Shaheds have crossed the border and are moving towards Polish cities, monitoring group report. In their path, there is Rehi airport, the main hub for arms supplies to Ukraine, which has now been closed. Also, cities under threat include Chelm, Samoj, Lublin and Rehi. All four of these cities I've driven through when I go to Ukraine, because we go to Ukraine through Poland. So Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, south down to Poland, and then west to then east to Ukraine through all of these cities. So I've been in those cities. Let's look at the map. About midnight, these drones were launched into Ukraine. Many of them flew into Kyiv with the missiles, of course, but about 10 to 20, a group of drones continued to Lvov direction on the western part of Ukraine. But they didn't stop, they continued until they reached the border, and they still continued. And on several different locations, not all on one location, they crossed the border into Poland and continued to fly and maneuver. This is important because there is a big difference if these drones fly into Poland in one straight line or go S-shaped paths like that. One indicates Ukrainian electronic jamming, other indicates that it was a directed flight path. And on this map you can see, my friends, the pathways these drones took. See, if they were one direct flight path, as we can see right here, but it changed from maneuvering S-shaped flight path to a certain one-directional flight path already inside Poland, where Ukrainian electronic jamming was not happening anymore. This all indicates that this was not a group of jammed drones that flew into Poland by mistake. These were deliberately sent to NATO airspace to test how Poland reacts, how fast they react, and how the entire NATO bloc reacts. And the reaction is unveiling right now as we speak. By the time you are watching this video, my friends, you will know much more than I do, because I'm recording it as information is coming out at this moment. But what exactly was the timeline? We're about midnight to 1 a.m. they entered Polish airspace, and about 10 to 20 drones, we don't know exactly how much, entered, and already by 1:24 a.m. 2 of the drones were shot down by Polish Air Force. Now previously Russian drones have entered Polish airspace, 1 or 2 drones, and they have not been shot down. They have fallen onto the field. But this is the very first time Poland shot down the drones deliberately, decided to take action, meaning the Polish Air Force saw and made a decision that these drones are threatening urban areas, we have to take them out. So this is a major escalation in this war. And one drone hit a residential house in Poland in the village of Virik, Lublin region, resulting in the damage of house's roof and car parked nearby. Now, of course, it's not like massive damage, not like we see in Kyiv, where huge explosion rock even the governmental buildings, but still this is NATO territory. This is a clearly struck and destroyed house by a Russian weapon on a NATO territory. So this is Article 4 and perhaps Article 5 topic. We're in that territory now. And as I'm speaking, Donald Tusk is actually speaking with the NATO secretary, and they are discussing whether to evoke Article 4 to discuss this incident, then to evoke Article 5. This information is not out yet at the time I'm making this video. I'll read you the report that the Polish Armed Forces stated. Attention! During today's attack by the Russian Federation carrying out strikes on the target located in the territory of Ukraine, our airspace was repeatedly violated by drone-typed objects. An operation is underway aimed at identifying and neutralizing the objects. On the orders of operational commander of the Polish Armed Forces, weapons have been deployed. And this is for the very first time, as I mentioned, because in 2023, Russian missile flew into Poland in a border village, killing 2 civilians. The missile was not shot down and the reaction was very soft. This is the first time Polish Air Force has used weapons against Russian drones. And services are actively working to locate the downed objects. And just to illustrate this also on a map, here are 3 different locations these Shahed drones were shot down. Not all of them were shot down. Some of them returned to Ukraine with a circle and some of them flew and fell down on the field. So there were all kind of outcomes for these, up to 20 drones. One is on the pathway to Lvov. Here is where we usually enter Ukraine from Poland. One is on the junction of Poland, Ukraine and Belarus, on the very close to the connection of these 3 countries, and one is close to Brest, the city. These are 3 confirmed locations where the Shaheds were shot down or found on the ground. But there are many more locations that are not identified yet. Poland set their armed forces on high alert, which also means additional reservists coming up. Now, this is not a mobilization order, no. It is a high alert. In NATO armies, there are these different codes of danger, codes of threats, and they went up 2 codes. That means some certain number of reservists, we call it hot reserve in the NATO army, in the reserve armies, is not all reservists, but the most vital reservists that just completed their conscription, for example, are called up for a limited period of time. According to the Deputy Minister of Defense of Poland, all security services have been put on high alert and military operation is underway to neutralize intruders in Polish airspace. Now, if this same thing happens in Estonia, let's say 1, 2, 3 Shahed drones fly in Estonia by accident, let's say, one of them falls on a house, Estonia puts our armed forces on high readiness and calls in the hot reserves, I would be called up. Again, I would be called up just to go and be ready and do whatever is necessary and be with my military unit for the next week, 2, 3, as long as they determine the threat code goes down again. I will give you now a list of air forces activated, because it was not only Poland. No, NATO scrambled their air force. Many different countries did it. Check it out. 3 Russian drones breached Polish airspace from western Ukraine. Over 100 Russian drones detected in Ukrainian skies, plus about 40 missiles. It was a big missile attack. Poland scrambled Saab 340 AWACS, which is Saab's Swedish Saab's equivalent of the American early warning and control aircraft. Plus a squadron of F-16s near the border. Dutch F-35 jets are now airborne. Romanian F-16s also have taken off. 4 Russian drones spotted approaching Poland's border near Kovel. Poland engaged, intruding drones, 2 intercepted successfully. Hungary and Slovakia, both what we call Russian simps in the European Union, Russian-friendly countries in the European Union, have also scrambled fighter jets. So even they did it. Maybe it's a wake-up call for these 2 countries, who are still one of the last countries buying massive amounts of Russian gas in the European Union. We'll go back to that topic later. But here you can see 3, 4, even 5 countries have scrambled their air forces because about 20 drones entered Poland. So NATO reacted very strongly, very fast. But what bothers me the most is that Poland did not have the ability to shoot down these drones, with mobile air defense teams like Ukraine has around the cities or around the borders. Because shooting them down with fighter jets and missiles, you can do it. It's effective. But it works and it's fast, but it's really expensive. If Russia were to send 1,000 drones into Poland, you cannot shoot them down with an air force because you don't have that many anti-air defense missiles. So yeah, I would love to see mobile air defense units deployed to the border areas that use kinetic, use anti-aircraft cannons, similar to the teams that Ukraine has, because they are many times cheaper. Let's watch two videos that citizens from Poland, Lublin, the eastern part of the Polish city, were recording. And in this video, you can just hear Polish fighter jets chasing Russian drones. Nothing more, just the sound. I wish I could give you more, my friends, but that's it right now. A video made at night in Lublin, the city. But there's one more, the sound is similar. Otherwise, you might think, oh, it's a passenger airliner if you live next to an airport. But knowing the situation, knowing the context of this is Polish Air Force searching for Shaheds. Now I'm bringing you a man from Poland that night who woke up to this, and for him this was a personal wake-up call. He says it's one for Poland and one for the entire NATO and European Union. I do agree with him, and I want to share his message.
To our NATO allies, get ready. This is your fucking wake-up call, and it's being delivered by the Russians.
That's it. I've not much to add to it. He said it in a way I would like to say it. So Poland had decided to close the Russian-Polish the Belarusian-Polish border before this incident. Already 2 days ago, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk announced that we will be closing the border because Russia conducts their big military exercise Zapad, which means West, 2025. It's Zapad 2025 on the Belarusian soil, close to Poland. It's a very big exercise, usually way over 100,000 troops take part in it. This year it's a bit smaller because, of course, war is going on in Ukraine and their troops are there. But still, it means a concentration of Russian personnel and machinery, military machinery, close to Polish border. So Donald Tusk, Polish Prime Minister, is like, we're gonna close the border, that's it. Even the railway connections. And they're gonna close it tomorrow, midnight. Thursday midnight Polish time. Everything will be closed. Not only closed, but also they are deploying Polish military units to the border, and this was before this incident. Here we can see them casually driving to the border areas, military units just to be deployed, to be ready, because Russia is holding their annual Zapad exercise with Belarus. Now this will be ramped up after the drone incident. But here is where it gets creepy even a little bit, or conspiracy theory vibes. Check it out. Today, Poland announced that it's closing its border with Belarus due to the Russian and Belarusian military exercise Zapad 2025 near the border. On Wednesday night, the Russian launched drones at Poland. It looks like a rehearsal for testing NATO countries' air defense systems and their ability to shoot down drones. I do not rule out the possibility that drones may have a reconnaissance function and even be equipped with cameras. The thing is, Russia always starts these invasions with military exercises. They did that with Ukraine, by the way, in 2022. And now Zapad 2025 is happening on 12th to 16th of September. So in 2 days. Obviously, when they would want to invade Poland, they would do it then. So of course, Donald Tusk, closed the Polish borders, deployed the army to the borders, and now immediately Russia sends drones to Poland to test out the effectiveness and speed of Polish Air Force. We don't know, but this information is eerily connected. Russia already manipulates the info about the information that comes out about the Shaheds in Poland. Now, be it an accident or not, I don't think it was an accident. Russians are already pushing the narrative that these drones flew into Poland because of Ukrainian electronic warfare means, jamming, for example, which usually renders a Shaheds incapable of changing direction. If they jam it, if they close the link with the Russian controller, the Shahed just runs directly until it runs out of fuel and falls down on a field somewhere. Then some rogue Shaheds can fly into Poland on a straight line. But these Shaheds flew with an S-shaped line and the curved line into Poland. Some of them turned back into Ukraine, indicating they were not affected by Ukrainian electronic warfare jamming. Although this is what Russians are spreading now, panically, that we didn't do it, Ukrainians did it. What comes now? Well, right now Donald Tusk and NATO Secretary Mark Rutte are talking, like communicating back and forth on phone all the time. By the time I'm making this video, they're on a call right now discussing what to do. One of the options is evoking Article 4, which summons all of the NATO countries' representatives to discuss whether we should take a defensive military action. I don't think Poland is going to evoke Article 5, but they might as well evoke Article 4. Last time they evoked Article 4 was 2022, 24th of February, when Russia invaded Ukraine. So this is the level, this is the height of threat we are at right now. When Russia invaded Ukraine that day, if Poland evokes Article 4, it's the second time. This concludes, for now, these Shahed drones into Poland. I would say it as it is, this Russian attack towards Poland. I will cover this topic in the next video also, my friends. But by the time you are watching it, I gotta say it again, you will know much more than me. So forgive me if this video is already limited, because I did not have this information you have by the time you're watching it. But we'll continue on the international topic, because, as I said, Hungary also scrambled their air force. Hungary being one of the Russian-friendly countries in the European Union and NATO. And one of the few countries in the European Union who still buys big amounts of Russian gas. Now, they have stopped because Ukraine forced them to, because Ukrainians destroyed the very pipeline Hungarians were using to import Russian gas. And now Hungary makes the very first step towards Western gas. I'm going to claim it. It's because Ukrainians forced them. Check it out. Hungary signed a 10-year gas supply agreement with Shell. According to the news agency, this is one of the first steps to diversify away from Russian flows as the European Union deadline to phase out those imports nears. European Union has a deadline for all of the countries to stop completely buying Russian gas. 2 billion cubic meters of gas will be delivered over 10 years, starting in 2026. This is fantastic news because Hungary and Slovakia are still addicted, like European Union was, to Russian fossil fuels. And this puts money in the Russian pockets, which puts money into the Russian army. So this is very good news, and much thanks to Ukrainians who destroyed the Druzhba pipeline, attacking it once a week at least for the last month. According to him, the supplies will be delivered to Hungary via Czech and German pipelines. And I just want to show you also the map of European Union pipelines. Majority of European gas with pipelines is connected to Norway right now, as you can see. Norway is connected to Great Britain, is connected to mainland Europe. LNG comes from America, by the way. It's very expensive, but we are buying it with ships. Nord Stream, the Russian pipeline, is not working anymore. It's broken. Yamal pipeline that went through Poland, the Polish stopped that nonsense. Ukrainian transit that went through Ukraine was the Druzhba pipeline, where Ukrainians destroyed it. They're bombarding this red line right here all the time. The Russian part of it, they are destroying it as much as possible. The last gas supplies that went to Slovakia and Hungary and still are going are Turk Stream. This pipeline right here that will be transported from Russia and through these paths to Hungary and Slovakia. And now finally Hungary is looking elsewhere. My friends, I have two more segments for you in this video. It will be a little bit longer video, but I have one name from Buy Me a Coffee. Only one. What can I do? You want to make that list longer? Sign up for Buy Me a Coffee. But I'll butcher that one name now. Supreme Overlord Marie K. That's it. Thank you for joining up. Let's make that list longer. Join up for Buy Me a Coffee. Now for the Frontline segment. Let's look at two of the hottest areas of the front lines, which is Kupiansk and Pokrovsk. Pokrovsk, of course, being on the Eastern Front, the city that Russians have been trying to surround for the last forever. You know, it is the main goal. And this is the very same area where from north of Pokrovsk, Russians made the Dobropilya breakthrough. They call it the Bunny Years breakthrough right here. Now, Ukrainians are pushing back. Ever since the Azov First Corps was deployed here, Ukrainians are pushing back almost everywhere. On this specific map, the yellow areas are gray areas, and the blue areas are the areas what Ukraine controls. And as you can see, they have pushed out the Dobropilya breakthrough. And also from the south of that breakthrough, they are connecting to Razine, this settlement right here. And as you can see, it is nicely marked with an arrow of the Ukrainian attack direction. They're trying to push out the northern eastern part of Pokrovsk, so there's no threats of surroundment anymore. And the last village Ukrainians actually liberated was Novoekonomishne. You can see that village right here. Some of it is still in the gray zone, but majority is controlled by Ukrainian units now. I also look at another map because this map gives me and you an idea of which units of the Russian armed forces are deployed here, because Russians are now deploying more troops to the Pokrovsk axis to do another one of those, we're going to do a breakthrough. You know, they are deploying tens of thousands of troops here right now. Everybody is expecting a massive assault. We haven't seen it yet. Keep in mind this highway right here and these 4 units here, they're in the rear of the front, meaning they're not actively taking part in the front line, you know, in the trench warfare. They're not being struck by FPV drones at the time. But these 4 units right here are all Marines or airborne divisions, airborne regiments, airborne brigades. 177th Separate Regiment of Marines, 336th Separate Brigade of Marines, 40th Naval Infantry Brigade, and 61st Naval Infantry Brigade. Now these 4 brigades they're not special forces or elite, but they are infantry plus. They get better equipment, they get better food and water and ammunition and medical, and they are not sent to meet assaults. That's the whole difference. But that means that these guys will be sent after the meat assaults. When Ukrainian defenders are already wasted their ammunition and they're off position, then these Marines and airborne troops will be sent in to actually take some new positions. So this means Russia is planning to actively start pushing in this area again, because right now Ukrainians have the initiative on this northern sector of Pokrovsk, not the southern, but only the northern, and they are trying to push this entire salient back. The Ukrainians are trying to do that. But now Russians have gathered some reserves here, as you can see, naval infantry. Let's also go to the northern eastern front, which is Kupiansk. Now, Gerasimov, the chief of staff of the Russian Armed Forces, the Ministry of Defense, Armed Forces, claimed that Kupiansk is semi-surrounded. I'll zoom out a little bit again so you can see where it is. This here is Kupiansk. I'll zoom in. Does this look like semi-surrounded to you? It does not to me. That means Gerasimov lied. He just lied because he had been lied to, because, you know, local commanders lie about this situation. You can see that Russians are assaulting and trying to surround this city, but Ukrainians are holding their ground. They have good defensive positions, and Russians are taking massive losses here. And I want to read you a Russian military propagandist, Yuri Podolyaka, his report about the Kupiansk axis and why the Chief of Staff of the Russian Armed Forces has wrong information about this area. I mean, he should have the information. He's the Chief of Staff. But it's complete. Even you and me, we can see. I don't have to be the Chief of Staff of the Russian Army to know that this Kupiansk axis here is holding firm. Check it out. Our units tried all summer to encircle and capture Kupiansk, but this could not be achieved. Therefore, Valery Gerasimov stated that Kupiansk is encircled and partially captured was, put it mildly, not true. He was misinformed, and this matter needs to be addressed by the relevant services. As experience has shown, our problems at the front are connected to lies at the level of local commanders, which are transmitted upwards through the echelons. As a result, our units are being sent into assaults without proper artillery and air support. leading to unjustified losses, and ultimately we failed to achieve our objective. Now again, Valery Gerasimov claimed that Kupiansk is encircled. Here is Kupiansk. So you really can see how much the lying affects the Russians, because when Kupiansk is encircled, attack, 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 take it. Well, where are you going to attack from? I mean, it's not even encircled from one side. And yet they got the political order, they're going to send the troops and meet the assaults, but they will be destroyed. And now for the final segment, my friends, the Russian economy, which also includes the oil refinery bingo. I want to show you the list of oil refineries struck in the last 36 days, so 1 month and 1 week. There's 10 oil refineries. Novokuybishevsky, Ryazansky, Afipsky, Saratovsky, Volgogradsky, Zizransky, Novoshakhtinsky, Kuybishevsky, Krasnodarsky and Ilsky oil refineries. And here they are on a map. They represent a big portion of Russian refining capabilities, well over 15%. And you might think 15 is not much, but 15 is enough to make massive lines in gas stations and for some gas stations to run out completely. Let's look into that. For example, Russian-occupied Abkhazia and Russian-occupied Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republic. In Abkhazia, they have stated that there's only 92 and Euro 5 left. These are the lowest grade gasolines. The rest of the types are totally out, nothing. Prices have also skyrocketed. But the fuel crisis in Donetsk and Luhansk is even worse. Resellers on the black market sell gasoline for $9 a gallon. This is like American units here for Americans to understand. $9 a gallon for a country which median wage is like, correct me here if I'm wrong, but $400, $500, $600 a month. So this is massive prices for Russia. This is insane prices, like up to the moon. And most of the gas stations in certain areas are run out totally. There are massive lines. You cannot use your car. You have to use your bicycle. That's how it is. It has gotten so bad that one specific region, Bashkiria, the governor of that region has reported that they wish to switch to mobilization mode. I think this is a translation error. I think he means war mode. This gives the local governments more power over the civilian manners, and if situation is really bad, it kind of is like justification. We are in wartime mode. We are in war. We can have shortages and deficits of everything. Well, they have shortages and deficits of gasoline and diesel in the gas stations, but they are in peacetime mode, so it doesn't make sense. He wishes, he's the first region, the first governor of a region who comes out with this information. We want to go to wartime mode. It would make sense then to have these deficits and to say that to the people, sorry, we are at war, we cannot have gasoline for you. I think these regions will be there will be many more regions like that in Russia in the future who will want to switch to wartime modes, because it doesn't make sense to say to people that we don't have gasoline or diesel. It's a true crisis, but it's peacetime. There's no justification for it. My friends, this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed these segments in today's video. I'll bring all these segments to you in the next video on Friday also. Be sure to be back. Then we can look in hindsight about the attack in Poland and whether Poland invoked Article 4 or Article 5. I don't think they will, but we'll talk about it. Until then, my friends, subscribe. And as always, Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye.